You're listening to Cars and Coffee, your local home for IndyCar, Formula One, and sports car racing news.
Here on 91.3 WHJE.
And now, here's your host, Nathan Ward.
Hello, and welcome back to Cars and Coffee here on 91.3 WHJE. My name is Nathan Ward. We have a lot of stuff to talk about today. We didn't do a show last week, unfortunately, due to Tyler and his buddies doing the hockey game. So we've got a lot of headlines. We have a lot of strange news to cover, but overall we have a very loaded show today. But before we get started, make sure to follow us on Instagram at carsandcoffee_WHJE. If you ever want to get in touch with the show, I'm always looking for more guests. And if you don't follow the station already, go follow WHJE_radio on Instagram as well. You can listen live anywhere at WHJE.com, and you can find live show replays of this show specifically at youtube.com/@TWIRvids. Going into the headlines, one of these is something I'm going to go into a little bit of detail about later. The 2017 Petit Le Mans winning car is up for sale. The overall winner, the Nissan Onroc DPI, that car has been put up for sale on racecarsforyou.com for a cool $650,000. We will get back to that later. Penske has confirmed that it will not provide any support to a theoretical Proton competition effort in the World Endurance Championship, since they are also leaving the WEC and there's no point. This really was kind of expected, because Penske didn't want anything to do with the WEC anymore, but Proton is a small enough team that expanding to 2 cars is going to be hard to meet that requirement to keep Porsche in the World Endurance Championship, and the entry list comes out at some point next week, and I don't think they're going to be on it. That's a hot take, but yeah, I don't think Porsche is going to make it to the WEC next year, which is really unfortunate, but, you know, what can you do? We will get back to another one of these later. Mick Schumacher announced a couple weeks ago that he will depart Alpine's hypercar effort for next season. He does have a new destination, and we will get to that later when we discuss IndyCar silly season. Matthew Jaminet and Paul Chatin have filled the final 2 seats at the new manufacturer Genesis's hypercar effort for next season, running in conjunction with a team called IDEX Sport. Genesis Magma Racing has filled all 6 of their full-time World Endurance Championship driver seats. Prema's IndyCar future still remains in doubt, which that's another thing we're going to get into later when we get to the IndyCar silly season segment. Prema's not doing so hot. They have recently confirmed that the Iron Dames team will not enter the World Endurance Championship next year, and they won't enter IMSA, so that leaves the European Le Mans Series and Michelin Le Mans Cup, and I don't think they're going to make either of those. In more interesting news, BBM Sport, a well-known Peugeot historic racing outfit that actually helps with the Peugeot factory hypercar program, has taken delivery of its 2 wingless Peugeot 9X8s. If you listen to the Radiothon show, I brought this up when Oliver and Ryan were here. This team is going to campaign 2 of these older generation Peugeot 9X8s in the Asian Le Mans Series, because the Asian Le Mans Series is implementing a hypercar class for amateur drivers, and BBM Sport really caters to the richest of the rich amateur drivers that like driving historic Le Mans winners around all the time. So, and they are the single team that is mostly responsible for maintaining a lot of vintage Peugeot race cars. They own, I think, most, if not all, the remaining Peugeot LMP1 cars from the late 2000s, which is pretty insane. They also run the vintage BR Engineering LMP2 cars from 2016, those cars from Russia that have... they were in the WEC and the European Le Mans Series for a couple years, and now BBM Sport has taken up the running of them in like British historic championships and historic vintage series. It's weird to call 2016 cars vintage, but they are being campaigned by BBM Sport in vintage series across Europe as well. But going into a modern professional series is kind of a first, at least the first in a while, for BBM Sport with these 2 Peugeots. They've already confirmed that a Greek amateur driver by the name of Crichton Landudis, a European Le Mans Series regular, will be the bronze driver in one of the cars. We do not know. We do not have any leads on who the other drivers may be, except for maybe Alex Quinn, who has been Landudis' teammate at Algarve Pro Racing and has recently been signed as a Peugeot test and reserve driver. So maybe Peugeot, who does have some input in this program or will have some input in this program, might stick Quinn in one of those wingless 9X8s. That's it for the headlines section, at least. So before we get into the meat of the sandwich here, the updates regarding the Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin's lawsuit against NASCAR, here's how you can find us on YouTube if you missed any part of the show.
Want more racing news and highlights along with full show replays?
241.4 to 8 miles an hour.
Head over to the This Week in Racing YouTube channel so you never miss an episode of Cars and Coffee and highlights from your favorite racing series. Just go to youtube.com/@TWIRvids.
That's how you can find us on YouTube if you have missed a show or have want to rewind and listen again. Over the last few days, I wrote this a couple weeks ago, more documents have been released in the ongoing federal antitrust lawsuit filed by 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports against NASCAR. Most of these new pieces of evidence are in the form of text messages between several higher-ups in NASCAR management concerning the charter agreement and the 2024 demise of the Superstar Racing Experience, in which many NASCAR drivers made cameo appearances in. All of these texts involve a few major players at the top level of NASCAR management. Steve Phelps, the newly appointed commissioner of NASCAR, he's the Roger Goodell of NASCAR. Steve O'Donnell, the president of the company, Ben Kennedy, the senior vice president of strategy, Brian Herbst, the chief revenue officer, and one redacted NASCAR employee whose name has not been released. On the topic of SRX first, the series debuted in 2021, created by former driver Tony Stewart and former crew chief Ray Evernham. Evernham was the crew chief for Jeff Gordon for many, many, many years. Inviting drivers from various racing disciplines, mostly stock cars and American motorsports, so stock cars, IndyCar, that kind of thing. Inviting drivers from various racing disciplines to compete in identically prepared race cars. It was held for 6 weeks during the summer with television coverage from CBS and then ESPN. NASCAR drivers were able to participate due to the races taking place on Saturday and later Thursday nights and not affecting their weekend schedule. This chain of texts is from 2022 regarding drivers appearing in SRX. Steve Phelps equated the situation with SRX to the ongoing PGA Live Golf split in that sports sphere. The texts also show a plan by Phelps, O'Donnell, and Kennedy to convince the NASCAR board that SRX posed a legitimate threat if a rumored event at North Wilkesboro Speedway involving superstar Dale Earnhardt Jr. would move forward, as reported back in 2022. That never ended up happening, but these texts are... I don't know. I am no legal guy, so I'm going to stay out of some of the legal stuff, but this is from what I've heard from other people, this is not necessarily illegal, but it's certainly unethical. Alarmingly, O'Donnell called, quote, these guys playing stupid, being Stewart and Evernham, and called for NASCAR's legal team to, quote, put a knife in this trash series, which, yeah. More texts show that the employee whose name is redacted continued to bash the fans, teams, and drivers for expressing their displeasure at the direction of the sport. So, this is not going to go over well with teams, and I'm going to get back to that here in a bit, but the teams are already mad at NASCAR for trying to force this charter agreement on them, including Richard Childress, who we will bring up later. This is going to turn a lot of team owners against NASCAR, and I think NASCAR is going to have to either clean house or fire all these people or something. This has very quickly gone from a lawsuit where it was thought that NASCAR would just kind of squish it, like just stomp on it and it would be gone. But now that all of this has come out, NASCAR might be a bit screwed. Like, the teams are pushing back, the fans are pushing back, and Michael Jordan has a really good lawyer because he's Michael Jordan and he can afford the best lawyer there is. So, lesson learned, don't make Michael Jordan mad, or he will throw lots of money at you to get all this stuff out. The second set of texts centers around a conversation between Phelps and Herbst about the charter agreement, the document that 23XI and Front Row had refused to sign and led to them suing due to, quote, anti-competitive practices. They're basically accusing NASCAR of being a monopoly, considering they own most North American oval tracks, or big North American oval tracks. This does equate to IndyCar, and I have talked about it before in relation to IndyCar, because IndyCar gets locked out of a lot of ovals because NASCAR doesn't want them racing there. Why would you let your direct competition race at your own tracks? Like, that's a business decision, and that's an understandable business decision. But NASCAR is so big that locks IndyCar out of a majority of North American oval tracks. And the ones that NASCAR does let them in, they are very highly restricted in hosting a race, to the point where NASCAR ends up losing money because they don't promote the race just to make IndyCar look bad. Herbst was updating Phelps in this text chain about the events of a meeting with team owners. This is at some point in 2023. It is not known when. No team owner has confirmed when it was. The topic of conversation had turned to team owner Richard Childress' recent radio appearance on NASCAR radio, where he made comments about the charter negotiations and the rising costs of the next-gen car. Phelps was displeased that Childress was holding out on signing the 2025 charter agreement, telling Herbst that he, quote, that being Childress, owes everything to NASCAR, alongside repeatedly insulting him. Herbst tried calming Phelps down, but after a few minutes, the conversation would just turn back to repeatedly insulting Childress. Other texts between head of competition Scott Miller and executive vice president John Probst referred to several team owners as, quote, unhelpable, and said supporting backmarker teams is, quote, like government welfare. Wow, that's bad. Like, the already, like, the big teams, like the rich guys like Michael Jordan, they're already mad at NASCAR. I can't imagine how mad a statement like that would make a team owner like, say, BJ McLeod or Carl Long or Rick Ware, like these guys that are running very small, almost mom and pop operations. I can't imagine how mad that makes them, how embarrassing that is, and how, frankly, uncalled for that statement is. Yeah, they're not accepting help from you because you don't like them. Like, why would, in any sort of scenario, why would these backmarker teams accept help from an organization that looks down on them in that way? I wouldn't. I would be, I'd be fuming if my race team was, if someone helping my race team was equated to government welfare. That would really, that would really make me mad. I can't imagine what Rick Ware and Carl Long and BJ McLeod are thinking right now, but it can't be good, because that's a wild statement. Like, I can't. That's for me, that's infuriating to read. I can't imagine how it feels to actually be a team owner and have your little team that you've kept open, at least in Rick Ware's case, for 25 years. I can't imagine how that would make you feel. But over the course of the last 2 months, the course of this case has really turned against NASCAR. And I promise you, the poor treatment of these team owners already documented, combined with the insults being thrown around by upper management, is not going to endear team owners to sticking with NASCAR through this lawsuit. More updates will be here throughout the coming weeks as this heads to trial in 2026. And eventually, when it is all said and done, I will compile all of the major events into a giant project for YouTube and maybe for the WHJE website. But that's really all I have, because I don't want to get too much into speculating about this, because I don't want to open myself up to the potential of me saying the wrong thing and it being way, 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 way wrong. When we come back, we're going to talk about a history-making car that you can own if you're rich enough. We're going to go to a quick song break. Here's My Hero by the Foo Fighters.
Don't go away. Cars and Coffee will be right back on 91.3 WHJE. Hi, if you're listening to this, that means you're listening to a replay of today's show. I just want to say thank you for listening, and make sure to subscribe to the This Week in Racing YouTube channel so you never miss another episode of Cars and Coffee, along with highlights from your favorite motorsport series. If you're listening on the WHJE website, go to youtube.com/@TWIRvids. If you're listening to this on YouTube, just click the button below. Thank you so much for listening. Now, let's get back to the show. We now return to Cars and Coffee here on 91.3 WHJE.
Welcome back to Cars and Coffee here on 91.3 WHJE. My name is Nathan Ward. Our final segment of the day, as mentioned earlier in the show, an interesting car, one of my personal favorites, has appeared for sale on racecarsforyou.com. The Nissan Onroc DPI chassis number 2, if you're listening on YouTube, I'll throw up some photos from the listing, has been listed for sale on the popular website for a cool $650,000. According to the listing, the prototype with the heart of a Nissan GTR comes with its original gearbox and remains in excellent mechanical condition for track use, collection, or historic competition. It also, at least according to the listing, comes with a spare engine and gearbox, which I assume is from the other Nissan DPI. The history of Chassis 2 is semi-known with some serious accolades across its 3 years of competition. The car served as car number 2 for the Tequila Patron ESM team in 2017, where it scored podiums at Long Beach, Detroit, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, and Road America. The car's crowning achievement, however, is a win at Petit Le Mans in 2017 in the hands of Scott Sharp, Toyota Gazoo Racing Factory driver Brendan Hartley, and Ryan Dial. The car scored one further podium in 2018 for ESM, but after a lack of spares led the team to field one car at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park that year, it's unknown which chassis was run there and if the two chassis swapped numbers after that point. After ESM's unfortunate closure in December of 2018, the two cars were sold to Core Autosport, where the only confirmed outing for Chassis 02 that year was the car's final race, the 2019 Petit Le Mans. Many amateur drivers and teams have been purchasing DPIs since their retirement in 2022 and have continued to put them to use in the IMSA HSR Historic Series, which is a series that I'm going to have to take a look at a lot more because there are some cool things racing in HSR right now. With this being the only of the two Nissan DPIs to resurface since Core Autosport's closure in 2022, it's certainly going to be a desired addition for many historic racers and collectors alike. The car even comes with a package of spares, including a rebuilt engine and gearbox, presumably from the second chassis. This isn't a sponsored segment, I'm just a massive fan of the Nissan DPI, and I hope it goes to someone who keeps it competing, or maybe a collection near me, so I can go see my favorite IMSA DPI. I love the Nissan DPI. It's also in probably my favorite livery. It is still in livery from 2019 Petit Le Mans. It was a special paint job that was run by Core Autosport owner John Bennett in his final race in a DPI prototype. He did come back in LMP3 for a few years, but that was using the normal orange and white Core Autosport scheme. But, again, one of my favorite prototypes. I really hope someone in Indiana gets it so I can hopefully go and see it because I love the Nissan DPI. I love the LMP2 car it's based off of, and I love the Nissan DPI. It's unique because it was essentially a commission by Ed Brown, the owner of Tequila Patron, and Scott Sharp, the two co-owners of ESM when ESM was still around. It was essentially a commission from them to Ligier, at the time called Onroc Automotive, to build a special prototype for IMSA's new regulations. Nissan had next to no factory involvement, but they were willing to sell them engines. And they just happened to be the Turbo V6 from the Nissan GTR. Or at least from the GTR GT3 model. It's not the road car engine. The road car engine would be too heavy. But, unlike the Acura, the Mazda, and the Cadillac, there was no factory support. These were all essentially an ESM branded car with a Nissan engine. And Core kept that car going for a year. Unfortunately, they didn't find any buyers for the cars to keep running them in 2020. But what can you do? The car did have some issues throughout its life with reliability through the gearbox, and the gearbox problem is an issue shared with its LMP2 cousin. That's just how the car was built. But it still did manage a couple of wins throughout its career, not just with this chassis that's for sale now, with the other one, which I actually don't know where it is. So if anyone knows, please message Cars and Coffee _WHJ on Instagram. I'd love to figure out where the other Nissan DPI is. But yeah, the drivers of this specific chassis, this is a pretty decent list. Scott Sharp, Ryan Dial, Brendan Hartley, who continues to drive for Toyota in the World Endurance Championship, Pippo Durrani, who's going to drive for Genesis next year, John Bennett, one of the best bronze-rated drivers in IMSA. He's perennial prototype guy. He'd been in American Le Mans Series and IMSA Prototype Challenge for years and years and years and years until finally making this step up to DPI to end his career. Colin Brown, who's still with Meyershank Racing in IMSA, and Romain Dumas, the Pikes Peak Hill Climb record holder in the Volkswagen IDR, which we also talked about on the Radiothon show as my personal favorite electric vehicle. That's going to be it. I'm probably going to start a series or start a segment every week. I find something cool on Race Cars for You and talk about how cool the car is. So any feedback on that, I would love to hear on the Instagram as well. But that's going to do it for today and this week's episode of Cars and Coffee. I hope to be back at my normal time of Sunday at 11:30 a.m. next week, but due to the weather, I moved it up just so I didn't get snowed in tomorrow. Thank you for listening. Here's Can't You Hear Me Knockin' by the Rolling Stones. I will see you next week.